say good afternoon for this session anyways. My name is Ron Giard. I'm with Mass MEP. I'm a business development advisor. I'm the sales guy, which is a far cry from what I've been doing over, I've been with Mass MEP for about 4 years, after about 35 years in manufacturing, from engineering to operations to general management. Different industries, all in Massachusetts. And I got to a point in my career that the kids were all off the payroll and tired of going to the same four walls every day. Decided I wanted to stay in manufacturing. This was a great opportunity to kind of give back and work with different manufacturers in the state. And so really enjoying the transition that I've made in my career. I do have to give a plug to our sponsor, so give me a minute here. It's for Kearney, thank you, Donovan and McGee, who sponsored the breakout course. So, MEP stands for Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and we are one of 51 MEP centers. There's actually an MEP center in every state in the United States, including Puerto Rico. We are funded through NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. In Massachusetts, we also get funding through the state because they've deemed manufacturing extremely important to our economy. So we're kind of a quasi-federal state nonprofit organization, and our mission in life is to support manufacturing companies specifically. And the way we do that is through training, implementation, consulting, networking, you name it, we'll do it. Because we're connected with other organizations in the state, Mass Tech Collaborative, Mass Development, Mass Econ, Mass Hire. So if you have a need, I'm sure we can help in some way or find a resource that's available. As a result of being funded through NIST, they want to know how we're doing. And the way they do that is through surveys. The one thing I always hated, right? But they're extremely important to our success. And the reason is, they like to do a survey when we engage with a client, whether it's through training, consulting, or even an event like this. So at some point in the future, you'll be hearing from us to do a survey, and we'll help you through that survey. And as a result of what you guys are telling NIST, will determine our funding every year.
No pressure.
But I have your names anyway. But it's important to us. So at some point, just be aware that that'll be coming. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our event today, specifically around redefining organizational culture, which there's a lot to unpack there. I'm sure you can all appreciate that. So I'm going to introduce Adriana Vaccaro with Culture Redesigned, and Daisy Martinez with American Surgical, who we're going to be doing some work with pretty soon, and we're looking forward to that. So with that, I will kick it over.
I want to say you made the right decision saving us for last. I'm excited to have a full house. My other two were like quiet. So here we are. Not about me, but I feel like when you're about to hear someone, you kind of need to know why they're talking. So I'm originally from Colombia. That's where the accent is from. I have been in Massachusetts 18 years, working 15 years in human resources, large organizations. And since I started my company, I have been absolutely obsessed with digital transformations and really bringing culture to a place where people are engaged, but they're also evolving with the workplace and with reality. Everything is evolving, so we need to be part of that. I'm certified by the Society of HR Management. I am a Six Sigma black belt. I absolutely love numbers and boring things, Excel, Minitab, all those things that nobody likes, I love. And I'm a certified predictive index partner. So we use behavioral science to really understand differences, understand different people, and improve efficiencies in the workplace. And it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague Daisy.
I'm looking at that picture. Why did I choose that picture?
I chose that picture.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm Daisy, just Daisy from the Bronx. I was born and raised in with everybody, so that could bring some issues sometimes, you know. But very diverse culture, very rich, diverse culture. in New York City, but my parents are originally from Honduras. So I just say, I think our people, which is a longer story, but we're Afro Latinos, Afro Carib, but it's a longer story, right? I did a lot of administration work and bumped into what HR. When I started learning what HR was and what it can do, the impact it has on people, it coincided with my personal life. I do a lot of volunteer work. I really have a passion for people and their growth. I like to see people progress. So when I bumped into HR, I'm like, oh, this is something I could do in my personal life and I can do in my secular life, and it makes me happier, to do something I love to do, which is work with people. How did I end up in manufacturing? In all honesty, I didn't want to be in manufacturing. I've been asked to join manufacturing because I speak Spanish for a while, and when I would go in interviews, it just didn't fit right at the time. I didn't feel comfortable. I'm like, I don't know how people are treated, but I didn't know it was something that I can personally do and handle. So then I met the CEO of American Surgical Company, and him and the leadership team had this vision for what manufacturing can be. What they were doing, how they view employees, where they wanted them to be successful not only with us, but if they grow and do something even better because of us, then that makes us happy as well. So when he was explaining what he was thinking, I thought about it, processed it, and I said, I think this is something that I could support. So that's how I ended up there. And one of the things that we're dealing with now is artificial intelligence plus human intelligence equals return on investment. How do we do that? How do we transform the culture to get them ready for this? And I'll let Adriana
Thank
start.
you. So about today, we are going to need signs of life as we go through this before lunch. And I learned how to do compressions this morning. Oh, don't bend the elbows. So I just hope that you can stay with me. I know it's easier to get distracted and be somewhere else, so stay with me. And a quick temperature check. When I count to 3, I want you to give me a number with your hand. So give me a 1 if you are glad to be here. A 2 if you're here, sort of like, whatever. And a 3 if you are passionately waiting for this to be over. So, you can, so give me one of those, 1, 2, or 3. Very generous group. It was not a 1 or a 2. It was like Thank you. Okay, very generous group. Thank you so much. So evolve or be dismissed. That's something we wanted to start the session with that, because whether we want to embrace digital transformations or not, everything is changing. So why not evolve with it and really thrive? So in the modern workplace, and I'm going to be referring to the modern workplace as opposed to the traditional workplace. That's the terminology that is suggested by behavioral science. So there are 4 elements that are particularly critical to manufacturing. The first one is technology integration. They're self-explanatory, so I'm not going to elaborate there. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging awareness. Even if you don't want to use the DIB term, because it can be controversial for some environments, what we're talking about is how an individual feels in the workplace. And that idea that they are working for a paycheck, but they also want to have an emotional connection, because belonging is a fundamental need that we all have. So that is what we're referring to. And then flexibility. Flexibility has been introduced to the workplace for years now, but manufacturing was a little later embracing that idea. There were some rigid policies in terms of shifts and who can really lift 50 pounds and who cannot, and different things around that. So really becoming a little bit more flexible to also evolve with the times. And learning and development, understanding that we have employees that are maybe committed and loyal to us right now, maybe not, but maybe. So how do we give them the skills that they need so that they can stay with us and thrive in a new environment? And that part of learning and development will look different for different organizations. Daisy is going to talk about her path working but it could be anything from teaching a new language to executive leadership coaching. So next we talk about what an effective culture is, and it's really, instead of thinking about the manufacturing floor itself, it's about the experience we create for the employees. And it's really about the definition of employee engagement is the emotional connection an employee has with the work that they are doing. So there are different forces that show up in the workplace that bring that engagement down. And it's either the job, the boss, the culture, or the organization in general. So how do we manage all those forces so the employee feels connected and we're also producing what we need to produce? Now a question for you. Why do technology integrations fail in manufacturing? Any answer comes to mind in general?
They're not supported by upper management.
They're not supported by upper management. Yes. Anyone
People
else?
go back to their old ways.
Yes,
The
change is
accountability.
difficult, right?
The accountability of that training.
Accountability. We're gonna talk about accountability. Yes.
The engagement of the employees impacted by change.
Absolutely. Yes. A for everyone. So the actual, like the formal results of this research, the first most common reason was poor communication and collaboration. So we do a job, like even like we send out a communication of a new software, but we don't send the timeline. We don't really give details. We don't tell them why we're doing it. And the second one is insufficient training and change management. So again, that every time we try to do something different, we have to give people enough of a reason to want to engage in that change. We're gonna talk about a framework for that in a minute, but first, one of the shifts that we need to think about when we introduce technology, the first feeling that goes for the employee, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, is I am now irrelevant. And the second one is technology is here to replace me. So that thought usually brings engagement down, even if they're not saying it, even if it's kind of like implicit, it still brings productivity and engagement down. So the reframe around it is we're bringing technology because we want you to feel relevant, purposeful, and connected. And the second one, we're bringing technology because we want you to feel supported. That's the first key. And then the second one is around that communication and supporting the employee. So we want to, for the communication to be effective, we need to cover 7 items. And I know that's a lot for communicating an idea, but it's really capturing how different people think and how for different people, different needs are more important than others. So the first one is streamlined workflows, which allows the employee to use creativity to practice problem solving and creative thinking or critical thinking. So instead of doing what we used to call mindless work, you are here and you are actually adding value to a process. Improve safety, which obviously if we have an activity that is really dangerous, or we've seen most of our workers coming from the same position in the cutter, that's something we can automate ideally first. Enhance productivity. That allows us to also talk to employees about sustainment of the workplace and the workforce. So in manufacturing, there is usually a season where you need to produce more. When we are able to read those manufacturing indicators of production, technology will help us go through the peak and down the peak without having a lot of influx in workforce. Now, all of this I have seen, I'm not just making them up. I have seen them work in reality. Skill development, and I share, I have a couple of clients that have promoted people to senior data analysis, tech troubleshooting, programming, and and my favorite example is from a manufacturing company that makes, they actually make robots. But you know that bag that walks behind you? So the manufacturing manager, new manufacturing manager, new in the title, he doesn't have a college degree, but he's the best suited in the organization to be in charge of all the manufacturing happening at that particular site. So for him, skill development looks like our team teaching him leadership skills and executive coaching, because he already has all the other skills, and he had worked manufacturing for 15 years. He just didn't have, he would have never been promoted to manager of a large manufacturing plant if it wasn't because all the work they have been doing around technology. Enhanced collaboration and increased job satisfaction. And again, we're talking about employees feeling that connection to a purpose. So this is, we go back to traditional manufacturing workplace and how technology was being introduced. So we had a workplace, and then we brought technology, and we were expecting for the culture to, you know, like Play-Doh, just figure it out. Well, we don't have to do this anymore. Yes, like just figure it out. Change the SOP, do it the other way. And that here is when they call me, right? When nothing is working. So how do we fix it? Ideally, I mean, I still take those phone calls, but ideally, we want to switch that order. We want to work on modernizing the culture first, on getting everyone ready for all the changes that are coming, and then introducing technology, and introducing it in a mindful way where employees still feel that they're the core of the organization, but technology is here to support them. So what do we know about culture, other than the fact that it's my favorite subject? Culture overrides procedure. So you will always find, if any of you, if you find yourself walking through a manufacturing floor or a production floor, without an SOP, people will say, well, that's how we do it. And you'll be like, that's not what it says here. Well, but that's how we do it. I hope you've experienced that, and it's not just me. Culture must be cultivated. And something I see often with my clients is, yeah, we did something about culture like 6 years ago. We had a summit, and all of those things are great, even if you have something about employee appreciation. I'm not saying don't do those things, those are great. I love me a good Taco Tuesday. But culture is about the collective. It's about the habits that every person is engaging every day. And lastly, culture must support equity and inclusion, especially in this workforce where we have a lot of younger employees that want to belong, that need to feel that sense of connection, that want to see people getting promoted because they deserve it and not because of other reasons that, you know, I will need more than whatever minutes I have left. Here, I really want to talk about the dimensions of culture, and accidentally I matched the slide. So there are 3 dimensions. The claim is what we put on a website. When we say, you know, the culture of respect is what you can expect here, and it's also usually coming from a good place, but it's like an aspiration, right? And then we have the infrastructure, which is, let's look at these SOPs. Do they connect with the claim, or are, you know, 2 completely different things? And then I do listening interviews, and I go and talk to employees. And sometimes the claim is somewhere, the infrastructure is somewhere, and the reality is somewhere else. So the work we are doing, ideally, this is the place we want to get to, where reality matches the claim because it's supported by the infrastructure. And that infrastructure right now will include a lot of technology. Now, in terms of change management, and a couple of you mentioned change is difficult. So I wanted to share a framework from behavioral science, and it's called the COMBI model. So every time we want an employee to do something different, we need to make sure that these three elements are present. Capability, which is knowing how to do the thing or how to use the computer or how to, record the lack of compliance. So it's just that skill or capability. Motivation, which is that connection. Why should I use the new software instead of just journaling the incoming supplies or whatever is happening? And opportunity, we need consistently to present the opportunity to engage in that new behavior. So it's not only about communicating, and a lot of everybody learns in a different way. So even if you communicate the change, you still have to communicate why are you teaching someone something different? Why is this better for them? And here is the opportunity to use that new technology. And the last framework for today, and my lecture is almost over, I promise. We have implemented this in manufacturing with companies of different sizes. Smallest 75 employees, largest 2,600 employees, completed the cycle. We are currently working with a company with 50 employees and a global company which has thousands. But the idea is that we want to get to a place where our workforce is engaged, empowered, and tech ready. And to do that, for those of you that love Six Sigma like me, it's the same as the MIAC, implement, measure progress, and recalibrate is culture, so we have to keep doing it. But before we do that, we really have to meet these two components. And I know they sound fluffy, but they're extremely critical. So the first one is, why are we doing it? Not only why is important for the company, but why is important, the big picture, right? Why is important for the employee, for the community, for the company, for society, for the environment, if you're doing a sustainability change as well. And the second one is authentic communication. And that implies understanding how whatever you're trying to do is affecting that person that was just unloading trucks or that was just doing something that wasn't part of your initial plan. Trust, right? How do we cultivate trust? Anyone, an answer? I'll take one. How do we cultivate trust?
I'm gonna go with transparency.
Transparency, beautiful. You get an A, you in the back. Okay, so transparency is something that when we are doing listening interviews, one of the things I hear often is like, we're lost, we don't know what's going on. So that fear puts people into something called binary thinking, which means, I'm in danger. I probably should just find another job. So transparency is a way to keep them from going into binary thinking. So letting them know you are safe and this change involves you. How do we create trust? We need to communicate with authenticity, meaning instead of giving an umbrella answer to everyone, really taking a moment to engage so that you can really direct empathy to a person, not just say the thing that sounds okay, but actually mean that. And communication, effective communication. Sometimes we are in a society that we want to take people through a whole story of trial and tribulations and then make the point. People are distracted, right? So make the point and then give all your arguments after. And because we have a lot of different thinking right now, trust has transitioned into, before it was like you have to earn trust. If you do what you're told, then I'm gonna trust you. Now it's more about looking at a person, looking at competence and character. Both of those factors can be coached and improved. So if you have an employee that is really competent, but doesn't have a good character, you can't really trust them. And the same way goes if it's the opposite, right? Someone that is incompetent, but it's like a really good person, you also can't really develop the growth trust there. And with that, we go into the practice with Daisy. Thank you so much.
So at American Surgical Company, we are like manufacturing company that does medical instruments for neurosurgery. For neurosurgery. We're in about 70 countries. We sell to 70 countries. Our products are used every 4.2 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, and we have a 98% customer retention rate, right? Meaning they're constantly ordering from us. And these are some of the products that we do. I'm still learning about them, but they are disposable. And we were very excited last year to see with artificial intelligence and robotics, especially in the medical field, what we're envisioning we might be able to do, right, and come up with. And the products that we'll be able to use for life saving, right? Our goal is always like how many lives have we impacted this year, right? By these products, and these products are interesting because it's supposed to stop a little bit less blood loss during the surgery. So that feels good to be doing a product like this, you know? But with that, we said, okay, well, we want to do all these things. What needs to get done? We have to accept it, right? If we want to stay up to date with what's happening in manufacturing or the technology, do we have the right people in the right seats to help us accomplish this? And with that came, how do we transform the culture that we were already working on enhancing, but how do we transform this culture to be adaptive and strong in order to support innovation and continuous improvement, right? What do we have to do to get that done? Well, what are our core values, right? Our core values for our company is do the right thing, find a way, succeed as a team, and hungry to succeed. So how do we take these core values and implement that to what we want these trainings to look like? That way we don't leave anybody behind, but ideally it would be nice if we can take them with us, right, as we grow into this. And this is something that Adriana is helping us with, right? So she was able to kick off this year. We totally changed how we do the state of the company. We did it with team building, we did it off-site, which was nice to see everybody dressed differently. We want our manufacturing associates to feel like associates, right? So even that alone, taking them out of the, into a different environment was like, wow to them. You know, they're treating us like this, they want us to learn, and investing in them in this way. I made a mistake. And with artificial intelligence and going to a conference, and we're like, okay, we need to do an AI policy, at least something light. So I do the AI policy, very light. We know it's here. Guys, be careful. We'll be adding to this as we learn more about these things. And I go to my AI conference, come back, and they're like, this, what is AI? And I'm like, of course, Daisy. I'm like, Adriana, what is AI? You know, how, literally, right? How are we gonna do this? So we started with, well, one is that we've been planning with our budget. We applied for the workforce training grant. Thankfully, we got a very nice amount where we're gonna be working with Adriana, Mass MEP, to get everybody where we want to get them to. So we've been designing it and changing it to stay to date on the things that we need our employees to learn. But while this is going on, we also had a separate meeting in English and in Spanish explaining what is AI. And not so much what the company ourselves is gonna do with it, or with technology or robotics, because we're still not sure. The leadership team is still discussing those things, but so that we're transparent, we tell them what we already do know, what it looks like, visuals, and that they already been using it. And those visuals were really impactful to them. When you really talk to people where it touches the heart, like, hey, this technology can help you with your kids' homework. You know, you don't always have to say you don't know. You know, or you only have, you know, right, $300 for the month. What can I do with $300? You know, with food, a recipe, and they got like, wow, like really? I go, yeah, this is something that can help you be independent. You don't always have to depend on someone. Right now you have some help with that. So that really touched them, and it made them feel what we've seen so far is empowered. You know, they're like, okay, this is something that I can learn, I can do, what it could possibly look like. Now they know, you know? So that was very impactful. They felt like they belonged. They see that it's not so much that, it's something that we have to do. If we wanna survive and thrive, in the manufacturing world, is something that we have to adopt, and our goal is to take them with us if possible, right? And all these skills that we're teaching them, if they grow with us, it'll be great. If they go somewhere else and find a good opportunity, we'll be happy for that and we'll support that as well, which makes them feel valued. And because they feel valued and they see the investment that's happening in them, we see the difference of attitude. We see the difference in how they're working, you know, not to perfection, but now just a willingness, and they see why they're part of the plan, you know. So I think that's something that's made a difference. Just recently we did a team building event with painting, right? And the artists were able to see, right? They were divided into groups of two. Some didn't want to work together, some did. You know, when it was over, they created beautiful paintings. Some had never painted before, you know, and that really touched them. They're like, wow. So another person was saying that they want to take up painting. It was so relaxing. But we learned a lot by watching them, you know, who's willing. So that's something that it is a challenge, but we want to see who's going to really take advantage of these trainings. And they see in themselves what they have to start changing. But it's little by little, poquito a poquito, that they're gonna get this, you know. But we do see the effects already. So definitely, with culture, starting with culture is important, because now the next phase is implementing automation and new technology, and they're not gonna be scared of it, you know. But more than that, we're gonna work with them so that they're able to release this. So that's what we're at right now, and what we're doing. And also training the managers to train and help as well.
Thank you. Back to you,
Questions?
Ron.
Any questions? We good?
No questions?
I'm gonna stand this way, because the last one I was standing this way, and she was waving a kite. The session's over. So, because I'll talk all day. So, we
You're good, we're good.
All right, and we get a couple of things to say.
Yeah, we got about 15 minutes.
So, I've sat through now 3 of these, and it's gotten better each time.
You made it better. That's the same. Good audience.
Yeah, the audience has gotten bigger too. So through my career, some of the things that I took from this session, and they're constant reminders, is, and I learned the hard way. I graduated in engineering, right? I was going to go out and get a great job, and I quickly learned in manufacturing, it's about people. Know and understand your audience before you do anything. Because to Daisy's story about AI is understand who you're dealing with first, and it's going to be different for different groups. So there's a lot of work up front. The other part is a lot has changed in the 35 years I was out in manufacturing from a technology and a people standpoint. So 20 years ago, when you were talking about automation, it was a bad thing because it was about getting rid of people. Right, it was replacing people's jobs, so it was a hard sell, and it's not even a sell because that's what really was driving it. Well, today's a different world. You can't even find the people, right? So the automation or technology piece might be easier, but the people issue is still the same. They're going to look at it as a threat or a fear, and so a lot of this culture, you know, that transition or flipping technology and culture from my perspective is important because you'll lose people, right? Or they won't be as engaged. So the more you do the work up front, from a road mapping or cultural standpoint, with the understanding of bringing in technology, from my perspective, is just as important, if not more important today. The cost of losing people is huge. We work with a lot of different organizations, all types of manufacturing, and a lot of turnover. The cost of just bringing people in, and that literally they're staying for 2 days and they leave. Right, so something's got to change there. And so when you can really stop looking and take time to look at your culture and develop that. So how long does it take, right? Somebody asked that question, right? It depends, right? On the size of the organization, the commitment, the authenticity of the leadership is key in all of this. So it's not a yes or no, or 2 years or 6 months to answer. It's really how you develop it and you put it together. So some other things that struck me through my career and listening today is, and Daisy touched on, his core values. So I've worked for a lot of different organizations in my career, big corporations, family-owned. Worked for an ESOP, which 100%. So that was a learning experience for me as well. But with the ESOP, the founder actually developed 10 core values. He's very passionate about it, and I'll tell you, it ran the company as the company grew. But the company got pretty big, and it's tougher to live to those core values, especially as you open up different facilities. When it's in one facility, it's easy to control. But I can tell you, you gotta live to those core values in good and bad times. Because when bad times come, it's easy to say, okay, heck with the core values. So I think that's a piece of what you're seeing too, is you wanna make sure you live to these core values.
I wanted to add to that, that's something that I appreciated when I started with Diana. One of the first questions was, what are your core values? And I was like, yes. I was like, she's the one. Because we're constantly repeating it to our employees. Don't you work? We use it in everything on performance evaluation, just to the company, right? But the way the DEI program is designed is to really get deep in what it does it look like to do the right thing under these circumstances and this world of manufacturing right now towards innovation. You know, so that's something that I appreciate, which I thought was really cool. That's how the program is designed, and you already see that how they're reacting to just that, how they feel a part of this whole thing. So I think that's very important to make sure that not just that you're working with understand what your core values are.
So another thing we're seeing from a lot of clients is they're calling us up saying, we gotta do something with our culture. And I say, what do you wanna do with your culture? Define your culture. What is it? Because it's different things to different companies, right? Some companies wanna be top-down driven, and that's how it is. Well, that's their culture. Culture is their culture, right? But I think what we're getting here is the culture of engagement, right? Is getting everyone involved. And so a lot of programs we've developed is around leadership development, the softer skills, right? Is getting all of the people aligned to understand what's important to the organization. So that's been a big demand on our end from clients that we're seeing. So there's two more comments I'll make is whether it's culture, whether it's a new piece of equipment, whether it's a new ERP system, we're seeing a lot of that. 90% preparation, 10% implementation is take the time up front and really roadmap it, understand what you want to accomplish, and what are the key things you need to have in place in order for that to be successful. I think it just keeps coming back to that for me, is the work up front versus we'll bring it in and we'll figure it out later, right? So the last saying is not my saying, but I'm sure you guys have all heard this one, right? The concern is train them and they may leave. Don't train them and they may stay, right? So to Daisy's point is, train them. And the reality is they're gonna see hopefully the good environment, but they may leave. It's a reality, and you should be helpful and thankful for them that they found another opportunity that they're gonna look at. I will say I've seen that time and time again, and then people usually come back to that company. Mm-hmm. They go away for a year or so and they come back.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's also about them feeling that you care about them. They're gonna do the effort more to learn something. Yeah. So that feeling alone for them to debate, do I wanna go over here where I'm just gonna be, a regular employee, or stay here, that they care about me enough that they continue to show me and to teach me so that I can learn things, and not only for themselves but for their families. And I know for the culture that our manufacturing associates are something very important to know. That it's beyond them. It's their children, their family, their children's children. What their future is gonna look like, and that touches the heart.
All right, so we have 5 minutes. No, I can't talk another 5 minutes. I won't do that. So a couple excellent. So a couple of things I want to review. So these are out there. These are important. The first one obviously is just the agenda. You don't have to scan that one. But if you have any questions for Jane Arnold, who did the session this morning, feel free to enter any questions that you might have that she can answer. Hopefully a lot of these sessions kind of supported a lot of what Jane had talked, not all of them, but a lot around the culture. This one's important to us, your ideas for 2025. This event we've been doing now for a number of years, and every year it gets better based on the feedback we get from you guys. Once again, know your audience, right? Is you guys gotta tell us what's important to you. When we do that survey, one of the questions is, what are your top 3 challenges over the next 3 years? And as a result of that, we develop programs around that so we can offer it to the manufacturing base. So if you could take some time, you don't have to do it here, but you can scan it, get the thing up. And then voice of the manufacturing survey from Kathy Mahoney, our president. So she takes a lot of the data she gets that comes in and puts, again, transparency, information out to the masses to say, hey, here's what we're hearing. AIM does that as well. They put programs out or survey monthly with the base is telling them. So this one's very important to us.
Yeah.
So what else? We've got lunch.
Yep, so lunch is next, so there will be lunch served in the main room where we all were, where we started the day. And in with that QR code for Jane is going to be answering some questions. So if you do have them, put them in and she'll try to get to them, and we'll have some closing remarks. So that's up next, so that's about it, yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.